All right, well, we'll go from boomer to zoomer. Tua Tagovailoa.
That's the way to talk about Cap.
Tua Tagovailoa was making headlines yesterday after talking about his experience with Brian Flores. A lot of people fall on either side of this conversation. Just listen to what Tua had to say.
To put it in simplest terms, if you woke up every morning and I told you you suck at what you did, that you don't belong doing what you do, that you shouldn't be here, that this guy should be here, that you haven't earned this right, and then you have somebody else come in and tell you, dude, you are the best fit for this. Like, you are accurate, you are the best whatever, you are this, you are that. Like, how would it make you feel listening to one or the other? You see what I'm saying? And then you hear it, regardless of what it is, the good or the bad, and you hear it more and more, you start to actually believe that. I don't care who you are. You can be the president of the United States. You have a terrible person that's telling you things that you don't want to hear, or that you probably shouldn't be hearing. You're going to start to believe that about yourself. And so that's sort of like what ended up happening. And it was, I mean, it's basically been, 2 years of training that out of not just me, but, a couple of the guys as well that have been here since my rookie year all the way till now.
Boys, a rare shot or no shot around the NFL. Shot or no shot. Tua's soft.
Yeah, I'm going to say no shot. The injuries that he has overcome, the hip injury and this injury, and he gets back out there and earns a $212 million extension, no shot he's soft. Now, are some people better equipped to handle playing for Bobby Knight or Bill Belichick or Brian Flores? Absolutely. No doubt about it. But soft? Absolutely not. No shot.
So it's a no shot. What he's doing, Shay, is talking about his experience. His experience with Brian Flores. Hey, man, whatever I did, it wasn't good enough for Brian Flores. Okay, but it didn't break him. I'll use me as an example. I had a program director that said, I just want you to talk about sports. The audience doesn't want to know anything about you. Just talk about the sports. Don't talk about your experiences. Don't talk about what's outside the building. Just talk about sports. No one needs to know where you're from. Just talk about sports. This month marks 19 years of me being at ESPN. I out-survived, if I can use that word. I was able to stay longer than the guy that was working here. And so my point is that I'm telling you about my experience, but it didn't break me. I'm still here. So for Tua's standpoint, Le Batard asked a really good question, and Tua just answered it properly. He goes, the difference between McDaniels and Flores is that with Brian Flores, it was never good enough. And with McDaniel, he says, hey, I'm going to accentuate the positives, hide the negatives of your game. These are the things that you do well. You need to work on this so we can get more and more and more of it. Tua is more comfortable now than he ever was before because he secured the bag, because he knows he ain't going anywhere. So it's just him speaking his truth. And I think that's fine. It's so rare in the NFL, Cap, that someone is that open and comfortable enough to talk about it. And he's winning at this point in time.
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway as I watched it. I went, wow, we don't get that type of honesty from a player very often, especially with a coach who's actively in the league and he's actively playing in the league. Maybe Michael Jordan at his Hall of Fame speech is still firing on his high school coach who didn't put him on the varsity, or you get a guy in an interview after he's done, it was really rough playing for so-and-so. I vibe better with this. That type of honesty? What if I told you came to work every day, hoodie, and they told you, you suck, you're terrible at what you do? And then another guy came in, we'll call him Danny Zetterman, and he says, hoodie, you're the greatest, and you're a perfect fit for what we want here at Good Karma Brand.
Yeah, well, what else?
There you go.
Yeah.
I asked the question tongue-in-cheek because I saw the reaction on social media that, Tua, he's such a bleep. He's so soft. He personifies Gen Z. They can't take any criticism. You know what this story was to me? It was the same deal as Matt Patricia. It was the same deal as Joe Judge. Brian Flores in Miami walked in thinking his bleep didn't stink because he coached with Belichick and he could show you a couple rings. run you through a brutal camp, give you a hard time as a player. But guess what? You're not Bill Belichick. You can't roll Super Bowl rings across a dining room table and tell everybody, we've got all these banners. So when you do it, like Matt Patricia in Detroit, having guys practice outside for no reason in the snow, running them through a camp where they had more padded practices than ever, basically verbally attacking players in meetings. If you're not Belichick, you can't do it. But all the Patriots assistants do.
Yeah.
And I think it's a problem for the guys who don't have Belichick's resume and try to get it off with new players.
Cap, everyone coaches differently. That's why I asked Albert Breer, we talked to him our last hour, what does this do for Flores? Because it's a players' league, man. It's not like they can't be coached, but just the way that Tua talked about his experience with Flores, it makes me wonder, what do teams think about Flores being a head coach for their team in the future? Does that affect it based on what Tua said? I don't know.
Well, I think Albert made a great point when he said this is a huge press conference. This is a crisis moment in Brian Flores' career, because if he goes to the podium and says, I'm not answering any of those questions, what are you hiding? If he goes to the podium and goes, look, I'm not going to get into a war of words, but he was too soft and he didn't want to be coached and he this and that. Now he looks like he's not changed. But if he goes to the podium and says, look, I made my share of mistakes. I'm in a better place today. I'm a better coach today. I learned, and I wish Tua nothing but the best, and I wish I had been able to reach him in a better way. If I'm an owner, I'm like, boy, I love his aggressive defense. I love his blitz packages and his exotic schemes. And it sounds like he's matured. So this is a massive, massive press conference for him today.
All right, how many teams are better than the Bears in the NFC? If you're on hold, you will be on the air. 312-332-ESPN, 332-3776 is our phone number. We have a Super Bowl champion that's going to answer that question for us coming up next